let's start with a short meditation. All of you ready? Okay. Okay, now let's get into a comfortable sitting position. You can cross your leg, or if you're sitting on a chair, put your 2 feet flat on the floor. You can touch your thumb and your index finger together, and your palms can face up, down, or sideways, and you can gently close your eyes. Relax your feet and your toes. Relax your hands and your fingers. Tuck in your tummy. Pull back your shoulders and let them drop down. Pull up your head, neck, and spine to become longer. Adjust your jaws and your chin. A bit of smiles, and park your tongue at the back of your upper teeth. Relax your chin, your scalp, your forehead, and your eyes. Bring attention to the tip of your nose. Observe the air going out and coming in. Check if both left and right nostrils are flowing evenly, or one side is blocked compared to the other side. Feel the air. It feels warm when you exhale and slightly cold when you inhale. Feel the hairs inside your nose moving along your breath. And finally, feel the exhale blowing onto the upper part of your lips. Now we are going to start the 7-step cause and effect meditation on Mother. We start with step 0, which is equanimity. Recall your BFF, best friend forever, in this life. And try to imagine that this BFF in your past life might be your worst enemy. And imagine another person who is your worst enemy in this life. And try to think that this worst enemy might be your BFF in your past life. With this understanding, try to develop equanimity towards these two, both your BFF and your worst enemy. They are not what you think they are, because in previous lives, they played a different role than what they are doing now. That also means that all beings have the right to be treated equally, regardless of their background, regardless of their relationship with you, regardless of their color, their culture, and their ideas. Now let's go to step 1, which is recognizing all beings as our mother. So using the train of thought by checking out the material cause of our current mind, which must have come from the mind from previous thought. And if we were to trace this all the way back to the time when we were in the womb and to the time when we were first conceived, and even earlier than that, we would come to realizations that we have been going through many, many, many lifetimes. And at each lifetime, there must be a mother. We have been going through lives as different beings, especially as human and animals. And in each life, there must be a mother. So due to the fact that we have been going through many lifetimes with many, many mothers, all beings, including animals and the smallest insects, must have been our mothers before. Even the mother of in our current life has been our mothers for countless lives as well, as a human. Now let's go to the second step. After we recognize them as our mothers, we want to remember their kindness. Just imagine the mother in this life. She spent 9 months with us inside their womb, risking their life, taking care of the pregnancy. They risked their life to give birth to us, and also spend the next few years taking care of this fragile baby from all the harms and giving this baby the best they can be. Teaching the baby to live the life, to survive the world. Even until the time when we grew up, going to school, finding a job, getting married, and so on and so on. This does not happen to humans' life only, but also to animals' mother. Step number 3, after recognizing them as mother and after remembering their kindness, we decide to repay their kindness. All our mothers from previous life are suffering in this wheel of suffering, as if falling into the fire pit. And we have to help our mothers. With this situation, we need to develop our ultimate love for all beings, because we know that they are suffering. And they are ignorance. They are living in the darkness of the ignorance that they are suffering. And with this ultimate love, we want to give them all the best that they can be. This will then bring us to step number 5, which is ultimate compassion. We want them to be free of suffering. Step number 4, we want them to have the best they can experience and we can give them, which is ultimate love. Number 5 is ultimate compassion, which means that we don't want them to go through any suffering at all. And with love and compassion, we go to step number 6, which is laksamnamda. Decide to help no matter what, even if nobody's around to help me, no matter how difficult the task is. But before we are enlightened, how can we help them? How can we help them to the best of our ability? We can only achieve that when we are enlightened. And that will bring us to step number 7, which is bodhicitta. The wish to become enlightened quickly for the sake of all living beings. That is the ideal state for us so that we can have the full capacity and ability to help all beings who are living in the world of suffering now. Bring your attention back to the tip of your nose and do 3 long exhales. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. Okay, I hope it's a fun experience. Okay, now let's go through the reading. I forgot about the reading for class 8, okay? How to develop the wish for enlightenment. Let's read the verses 7 and 8. So this is the analogy of the mothers, okay, who are going through this circle of life. They were swept along on 4 fierce river currents, chained up tight in past deeds, hard to undo, stuffed in a steel cage of grasping self, smothered in a pitch-black ignorance. In a limitless round, they are born, and in their births are tortured by 3 sufferings without a break. Think how your mothers feel. Think of what's happening to them. Try to develop this highest wish. Okay. So from the Master Shantideva, the Bodhisattva's way of life, he mentioned, even just wishing you could stop a headache another person has can bring you merit without measure because of the helpful intent you feel. Wow, very small. What need then to mention the wish that you could stop the immeasurable pain of every being and put everyone in a state of measurable happiness? Wow, this is very beautiful. Now, let me give you this tip, all right? This one, okay, the first verse. This first verse, please remember this. This is very important, okay? We don't know where we will go after this life, just in case you fall into the hell, okay? Which is very unlikely, but remember this. Oh, am I not sharing my slide? I'm sharing my PDF. Can you see my PDF? Can? Yes? Okay, yeah, I'm sharing my PDF, right? So this verse, just in case you fall into the hell, just a small wish to stop somebody's headache, right, can bring you out of the hell. Okay, remember this. Yeah. What? Why? Because beings in the hell are very, very. They are suffering. They are in a deep suffering, and they are always angry. They are wrathful, and they don't have any kindness at all in their heart. So imagine if you have a bit of wish, kindness for others, you will get out of the hell. All right. So just remember this. But how can we remember this when we are suffering ourselves? That's why we need to practice kindness in our life every day, every moment, so that we are used to it. All right. So that we are used to it. Yeah. So this is very important. That's why I highlighted this verse here. I want you to remember that. Okay. But of course, if you understand the pen story, if you remember the pen story, you will never go to the three lower realms, right? Okay, let's continue. So yeah, the mothers, they are smothered completely in pitch black ignorance. Yeah, it's not even the daytime. They can't see at all. And then Tlaksam Namdak decide to take personal responsibility, the duty of freeing them upon ourselves, and so on in all the proper stages. Okay, loving kindness, which is step number 4, is an almost obsessive desire that each and every living being find happiness. Okay, loving kindness is to find happiness, and then compassion is an almost obsessive desire that they be free of any pain. Yeah. How do you remember this? Loving kindness is positive. Compassion is okay. Loving kindness is positive, meaning that we want them to be happy. Compassion is negative, meaning that we want them to be free of any pains, right? And if you want to remember this, this is very similar to Tonglen. When we take the suffering from others, that is basically the compassion. And then when we give all the happiness to others, that is loving kindness. Yeah, right? Okay, now, so here in the teachings of the Buddha, there are 2 methods given for training one's mind in this precious jewel, the wish for enlightenment. The first is known as the 7-part cause and effect instruction, which is a meditation that we did before just now. And the second is called exchanging self and others. No matter which of the 2 you use to train your mind, you can definitely gain the wish for enlightenment. Okay, so only 7 steps, 313, you can do this meditation regularly. So this is basically the description, right? So we have already gone through, so let's skip this. And then, oh yeah, this is still the same, right? Once you have the great compassion, which is step 5, you develop the step 6, extraordinary form of personal responsibility, Laksam Namdak, and finally step 7, the wish to achieve enlightenment for every living being, for every living beings. And I think, okay, there are some more texts behind that I highlighted. Yeah. So this is this we need to end the meditation with these 2 trains of thought, right? How good it would be if they could all find every happiness and every cause of happiness. I wish they could. I'll see that they do. How good it would be if they could all be free of every pain and every cause of pain. I wish they could. I'll see that they do. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful, right? Yeah, so someone is going to, well, sometimes we think, yeah, why should I be so busy? You know, somebody is going to do it, yeah, to make sure that every beings are happy and never have a single pain. Yeah. But no, we shouldn't think of that. we must tell ourselves, it is going to be myself. I'll rely on no one else. I by myself will see to it that every single being comes to have every single happiness, and I by myself will see to it that every single being gets free of every single pain. I will by myself put them into the state of the Buddhahood. So meditate strongly on these thoughts. They are the step we call Laksamnamda, the extraordinary form of personal responsibility. And so, for the sake of every living being, I will do, this is step 7, I will do anything I can to achieve this great goal, this one great goal, the state of the Buddha with every speed. Yeah. Think this way to yourself and do anything you can to develop the genuine wish to reach enlightenment for every living being. Okay. And then while you practice these meditations to develop the wish for enlightenment, you can also reflect that when you achieve your Buddhahood, you will, by the way, automatically gain everything you need for yourself as well. And this will prevent you from slipping to the lesser way. All right. I think that's all for class 8. Oh, one more. Oh, yeah. Some people may say, hey, this is, I have been reciting the prayer. And the prayer, I always say, I do have the wish for enlightenment. But this is just expressing a hope to gain the wish for enlightenment. It is just making a prayer about the wish. It is not the actual wish itself. Because if it were, then developing this wish would be very easy for everybody, right? So instead of just relying on the prayer itself, we must gain this true wish by putting our minds through the training, which are the 2 meditations, and then one of them we did just now, yeah, through each steps in order. All right. And yeah. And then when we understand that all the living creatures of the universe, all our dear mothers, are burning in the same way in the unbearable pain of the 3 lower realms and the circle of life in general, when we cannot stand to see it go on for a single moment more, when we finally feel the true wish to reach total enlightenment immediately, for the sake of every living being, well, then you can say you have gained this bodhicitta. Okay, so this is the end of reading 8. Let's go through some of the notes. 22 forms of the wish. Yeah, remember in Dr. Wu's class, right? He mentioned about 22 forms in the tanka that he commissioned those people to draw. So this is actually taken from Jewels of Realization by Master Asanga, right? 22 forms of the wish. So this metaphor can be found in the Jewel of Realization. And basically, what are they? Those 22 are earth, gold, first days of moon, which is a new moon, fire, a mind, a catch of gemstones, the ocean, a diamond, the king of mountains, medicine, spiritual guide, a wish-giving jewel, the sun, a song, a king, a treasure, a highway, a riding horse, a fount of water, sorry, translator, a river, and a cloud. Each metaphor stands for the wish at a different level of realization, okay? And let's not talk too much about this here. I don't remember whether we are going to cover it in ACI 2. Yeah, metta and karuna, that's correct, Francisca. Love and compassion, right? So there are 2 kinds of bodhisattva, right? The wish for enlightenment, bodhicitta. The first is praying in the form of prayer. The second is in the form of action, engaging, right? So the difference is like, the analogy is like between wanting to go somewhere and then actually taking the first step. Yeah. So there are two kind of bodhicitta. The first one is the wish in the form of prayer. The second is the wish in the form of action. Prayer means I wish, I want to go somewhere. Action means I take the first step to go somewhere, right? Yeah. And that's it. Wow. All right. Any questions before maybe we go to class 9? No questions? All right. Then let's move on to class 9. Okay, 9 and 10 are pretty long. And I think it's good to start class 9 now. Okay, let me open up the PowerPoint and then we can start it now, okay? Okay, class 9. 9 and 10 are basically talking about the correct worldview, okay? Correct worldview, yang dakpe tawa. So there are going to be 4 topics here. Why we need correct worldview? What is correct worldview? When is the correct worldview incomplete and when it is complete? And finally, unique teachings of the implication school or consequence school. Okay, there is a question from Ivan. Okay, let me take a look. At the very origin, how could we be in the will of life in the first place? Yeah, this is a very good question, right? Well, if we trace back, right, there is no end. And this is in fact, okay, in the Buddhist literature, right, there is this famous thing called 14 questions that the Buddha refused to answer. And one of the question is this one. At the very origin, at the very beginning, how did all these things start at the beginning? Okay, so the Buddha refused to answer. And I believe it is because of this thing, okay? Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. There is a frog in the well. There's a frog in the well. And this frog is the king of the frogs in the well. So he's the king in the well, you know? And he's so proud of himself. I'm the king of the frogs in this universe, in this well universe. Every day he was boasting, I'm the king of this well. Until one day, this crow, right? This crow couldn't stand it anymore. Hey, king of the frog. Yes, you are the king inside this well. But do you know how big is this universe? No, I don't care. I'm the king of the well. And the universe is just this well. How big can that be? How much bigger can that be? The crowd say, hi, king of the well. Let me show you the size of the universe. Okay, how much bigger can that be, you know? Okay, then step onto my body and let me fly you to the sky. But first, close your eyes first. Okay, how much bigger can the universe be? And then the king of the frogs get into the crow's body, and then the crow started to fly, and the crow fly very high above the ocean. It was, according to the story, it's Indian Ocean, you know. And then when they fly high enough, the crow asked the frog to open the eyes. Open your eyes, king of the frog, and look down. When the king of the frog opened his eyes, you know what happened? The ocean was so big, the universe was so vast, it shocked the frog and his head exploded. Exploded, all right? So what is the moral of the story? There are things that our mind cannot handle. Okay, there are things that we are not ready to handle. So it's the same as the reason why the Buddha refused to answer, because the question of the first origin is something that our mind might not be able to handle. Yeah, so I think this is just my hypothesis, and the reason why there is such story, and because it's a question that the Buddhas refused to answer, who am I to answer your question? So that is what I can say, Ivan. I'm sorry. All right. And then interestingly, right, those questions that Buddha refused to answer fall under the category of neutral seeds, neutral karma. Longmaten. Okay, if you come to mixed nuts, you will hear this term longmaten. It means neutral karma. Okay, means the karma. I mean, there are karmas which are considered as neutral. Yeah, and there are examples, and you might be surprised with example, but it's not the scope of ACI 1, so I don't think I want to talk about it. Okay, otherwise we won't end tonight. Okay, I hope I answer your question, Ivan. I want to jump to class 9. All right, so these are the 4 topics that we are going to talk about in class 9 and 10. And let's start. So why we need correct view, right? There are 3 reasons: to realize bodhicitta, to understand that nothing has a self, and finally to cut off the root of rebirth, or the root of will. Okay, the root of will. Okay. So when once we have the correct view, then we can get out of the will. No, sorry. Once we have the correct view, we can then get into the DPE, direct perception of emptiness, and that's when we realize bodhicitta, and we become bodhisattva with a big B. Okay. So with the correct worldview, we can understand the emptiness of all beings, and that's when we get into the conveyor belt to become a Buddha, maximum in 7 lifetimes or 500 years. Okay. And then when we have the correct worldview, we will be able to realize that nothing has a self. And Master Aryadeva mentioned that there is no second door to peace. We need to understand this so that we have peace. Right? And, Geshe Michael always like to say, do you realize that I refer a lot to Geshe Michael? Because he's my dear teacher, and I learn all this from him, Only because of his kindness, I get to learn all this knowledge, and I'm forever grateful to him. I'm forever grateful to J. Bila. He was my first ACI teacher in Singapore in the year 2015. Yeah, so I refer a lot to my teachers, because only through their kindness I get to learn all this knowledge. All right. So if you have a chance, please help me thank them for all this knowledge. Okay. So yeah, Master Aryadeva say that there is no second door to peace. Correct worldview is the only door. That's why if you realize in DCI, we focus a lot on the pen story. We even have the 2 husbands in the kitchen sutra. And we deal a lot with this understanding, because this is the only door. This is the only door. And then only with this correct worldview, we can cut off the root of the will, or the will of suffering. It is not enough to just understand the law of karma. It is still necessary to have the correct view of emptiness. Correct view refers to emptiness. And only when we have that, we can cut off the root of misunderstanding, which is the first link in the wheel of life. All right. Now, what is this? In order to go into the correct view, we need to understand the two realities, right? So in DCS 7, ENG ACI Michael has this. This is a picture of the Central Station in New York. Yeah, Central Station. Every day is so busy. A lot of, I think, hundreds of thousands of people are going through this station. It's very busy. This is the what we call the surface reality. Deep inside, under the station, there is this bedrock of stones, yeah, which is quiet, and people don't even realize. People rushing through the stations, the Grand Station, are not even realizing the bedrock at the bottom, holding the station. Yeah. So this is basically what we call deceptive reality, the surface, and then the bottom is ultimate reality. Kunsop Dempa and Dundam Dempa. Kunsop Dempa and Dundam Dempa, right? Sometimes we say deceptive reality is the fake reality. It's not fake. It is real, but it is deceptive, all right? And we can say that this deceptive refers to the positive side. Yes, Michael always said that the cause and effect and emptiness are two sides of the same thing, like the mobile phone. Yeah, the light, the brighter side is we call the cause and effect, and the darker side is the emptiness, right? So the cause and effect is basically the deceptive reality. The emptiness is the ultimate reality. So deceptive is not something bad. It just means that it is the cause and effect, okay? I used to think, hey, deceptive is something deceptive, something bad. No, it's not, okay? Don't go into that misunderstanding, all right? Now, when we want to discuss, Pabongka Rinpoche used the cause and effect or interdependence to explain the concept of the correct worldview. So in order to understand the correct worldview, we always equate the correct worldview with emptiness. But Pabongka Rinpoche, or even Je Tsongkhapa, is using the cause and effect to explain about the correct worldview. And then in order to explain the correct worldview, in order to explain the cause and effect, Pabongka Rinpoche brought us into the analysis of the traditional four Buddhism schools, okay? We call it traditional schools of Buddhism in India, which are basically four. The Buddha himself said that there are only four schools of Buddhism. Yeah, the Buddha himself mentioned it. And they are, these are the four. Those in the bracket, right? Those in the bracket. Or you can, yeah, we can call it the detailist, or we can call them the Abhidhamma school, or sometimes we can call them cause and effect school, okay? Yeah. And then the second is the logic school, or the sutris, also called Sautrantika. And the third one is the mind only, or Chitta Matra, or the Yogacara. And finally, the middle way, Madhyamika, which is divided into lower and higher, lower middle way and higher middle way. And the lower is also called Svatantrika, or independent. The higher is called the Prasangika, or consequence, or sometimes called implications, right? Implications. So these are the four traditional schools. Okay, sorry. All right. You can see that the first two are basically known as Hinayana or Theravada, and then the bottom two are known as Mahayana. The first three are called functionalist, okay? Why is that so? Let's go to the next page, okay? So please orient yourself, right? There are four schools. Yeah, the Hinayana or the Theravada consists of the first two, Abhidhamma and the Sutras, Adityalis and the Sutras, and then the Mahayana consists of the mind only and the middle way. Right? Middle way divided into lower and higher. Functionalists consists of the first three. Tendril means interdependence, dependence, right? Dependence, or cause and effect. So we always like to say dependence and emptiness are like two sides of the same coin. Two sides of the same coin. Oh yeah, here, dependence and two sides of the same coin. Dependence look at the positive side, where things come from. Emptiness look at the negative side, the absence of impossible. Okay, Tantrayana is part of the Mahayana, okay, Francisca? And we are not going to go into that now, all right? So dependence is the positive side where things come from. Emptiness is the absence of the impossible, right? Now let's go through the definition of dependence according to the schools, okay? The first group, functionalists, consists of the ABC, which, what are they? They are the detailists, Abhidhamma, they are the Sutris, Sautantrika, and they are the mind only, Yogacara or Chittamatra. These three are the functionalists. Easy. Cause and effect. It is impossible to create something out of nothing. Things depend on their causes and conditions to exist. Yeah, for things to exist, for things to exist, they must have the cause and conditions. But this cannot explain unchanging things, because unchanging things have no cause. There is no way to explain the origin of unchanging things. What are unchanging things? Space and emptiness, for example. Names, for example. Jensen Chai, you remember we discussed this in KL, right? That night until 2 a.m. Jensen Chai and Grace Nguyen. Is Grace here? Yeah, so we discussed this until late that night. So we talk about this. There are three definitions. So this is the first definition. What is the second definition? Is the definition of the independent, lower middle way, lower middle way. Things exist by virtue of their parts, meaning that things that change and or don't change, changing things and unchanging things exist because of their parts. Unchanging things are like emptiness and space, have their parts too. Okay. Of course, changing things are easy. Yeah. My pen, for example, there's a top part, there's a bottom part, there is the internal ink. Yeah. Those are changing things. My mobile phone, for example, the front part, the back part, the top part, the bottom part, the left part, the right part, right? Changing things and changing things like space, for example. Yeah, space is what? Space, time, those are the concept are unchanging. Space, we have the front, the back, the left, the right, the top, the bottom. But the independent cannot explain the ultimate origin. Yeah, I always like to say, hey, my mobile phone, for example, the parts, the glass, the plastic, the rubber, the components. Mobile phone only appeared in the past 20 years, I think. In the past 20 years, yeah. Yeah, in the past 20 years. Yeah. I remember when I came back from Japan, the mobile phone was like a brick. That was in 1998. So the real mobile phone was only around for the past 20 years. But all the components were already there even before, you know, the ICs, the components, the glass, yeah, the camera. No, at that moment, there were no cameras, but the components, I mean, there was no mobile phone. Yes, there were cameras, yeah. But why didn't we have the mobile phone then? It was, all the parts were there, and the independent cannot explain it. Therefore, the highest definition of dependence comes from the consequence. Wow, is the font too small? Okay, try to read. Huh? It is not incorrect to think that the independent is not accurate. Okay, meaning that you may think that independent is not accurate, but it is not detailed enough. Things exist as the projection of our consciousness on the parts. Yeah, the raw data such as shape and color of things are given labels or names through consciousness. The karma forces the labels. Okay, yeah. So we have the widescreen and we have the projection. Widescreen and projection, that is the cause of all things. Yeah. Sugeng, the raw material, the body of sugeng, and then there are seeds. So let's say you are looking at me, right? There is this raw material of sugeng, and then you project out your seeds into me, and you see me. You know, so sugeng consists of a raw material which serve as the white screen, and then sugeng can only exist if there is this white screen, and then you have the seeds to project sugeng into the white screen. All right, so that is basically the meaning of dependence by the consequence. All right, so these are the three definitions of tendril or dependence. The Pali word is called paticca samutpada. Okay, this is the three definitions of paticca samutpada or pratitya samutpada in Sanskrit. All right, in Chinese, yuan qi. All right, now, oh yeah, I already mentioned the dependence of the pen by the four schools, right? The pen is caused by the conditions, meaning that the pen is produced by the factory, right? The pen can be bought by your money. Independent schools say the pen is made of parts with shape and color. But the consequence said the parts are glued together by our seeds and labeled by us as the pen. So the karma forces us to label it as a pen. Okay, this is an extra E. All right. And then selflessness of the four schools. Duck. So the functionalists say that I do not exist without a cause. Sugeng can only exist because he was born by his mother, for example, right? Yeah, he was given birth by his mother. This class cannot happen without you asking for it, for example, right? So this is the functionalist view. How about the independent? I, who exist independently of its parts, do not exist, meaning that I need to have my parts to exist. Sugeng needs to have the hands, the head, the body, the feet to exist. Okay? Without the parts, Sugeng cannot exist. Hey, does this ring any bell? All those of you who are DCI people. I think we learned about this in advanced level 1, remember? Grace Swestin raised the head. Yes, advanced level 1, Grace. Yeah, we learned about this. And how to prove the emptiness of things is that we start to search for the parts. If it has parts, it has emptiness, meaning that if it has parts, it exists. It cannot exist if it doesn't have parts. And because it exists, it has emptiness. It has potential. I hope this helped you to understand more about advanced level 1. Okay. I have my flu, for example. I mean, Professor Connie, right? She suffered from headache and fever. And because the fever has parts, it exists and it has emptiness. The fever, which exists with independently of the parts, do not exist. Okay? Okay, got it? Grace Westing, can you understand? Okay, try to cook it. Okay, try to cook it. I don't know how many of you attended advanced level 1. I know for sure Grace attended because he was the translator for the program. All right, let's move on. How about the consequence? What does the consequence say? I who exist without the naming and labeling of consciousness, meaning that without the seeds, do not exist. I who exist independently of my karma or my seeds do not exist, right? So there has to be the seeds here, the karma here. In other words, you will not be able to see Sugeng talking to you tonight if you don't have the seeds to learn the system. All right? Or I'm looking at Ivo, you know, Vietnamese people who don't have the seeds to listen to the translation of this teaching will not be able to attend and will not be able to hear Ivo. All right, so this is how we need to think of it, right? So this is the end of class 9. Let's go through the text. The text is also equally difficult. Okay, let's go through slowly, okay? And I'm glad that we have time to start class 9 tonight. Otherwise, tomorrow will be very rush and we can't. I like to go deeper, okay? I like to go deeper. Huh? All right, now let me put it here and here. Please don't fall asleep, huh? You want to repeat at least? Which part you want to repeat? Tell me. Okay, never mind. I think this concept of dependence, we are going to repeat them in the text. Okay, so please don't worry. Okay, the correct view. Why you need correct view? I have already highlighted the important parts so we can go through them together. Verse 9. You may master renunciation and the wish, the bodhicitta, but unless you have the wisdom, the correct worldview, perceiving reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. You cannot cut the first link of the wheel of life. Therefore, make efforts in ways then to perceive interdependence. Therefore, make effort to learn the pratitya samutpada, or the dependence. Okay. Okay. So, and now we are going to talk about the 3 definitions of dependence. Now you see why the Theravada people, they only talk about cause and effect, and it's very insufficient, right? And I'm so glad that I have the good seeds to learn all this profound knowledge from my teachers. What the verse is saying is this: unless you have that very profound, correct view about suchness, suchness is the code word for emptiness, right? Unless you have that very profound, correct view about emptiness, unless you have the wisdom that perceives reality or ultimate truth, this is emptiness again, right? You can strive to perfect renunciation and wish for enlightenment, bodhicitta, along with all the other method practices as much as you please. But you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. You cannot cut the grasping to a self, since these practices alone do not act as a direct antidote for your grasping. Okay, so remember, the renunciation and wish of enlightenment are one side of the wing, and then wisdom is the other side. So unless you have this wisdom as well, then your birds can fly normally. But if only profound and renunciation and the wish, and you don't have the wisdom, the bird cannot fly. And you will come back, you cannot cut the root. You will come back to this wheel of suffering, all right? A person without this profound view may be able to attain various levels on up to the first of the 5 paths of the greater way, which is the accumulation path by force of renunciation and the wish for enlightenment alone. So with renunciation and bodhicitta alone, you can reach the first path, which is the accumulation, but you can never go any further, right? But if you are a follower, this is basically the same, right? You cannot even reach the second path, which is preparation. So suppose though that your mind is completely filled with the thoughts of renunciation and bodhicitta, and then in addition, you open your eyes to this profound view, which is the correct worldview, you can achieve all the various levels and paths of the Mahayana from its second path on up, from preparation, seeing, habituation, and finally the non-learning, right? Then too, the things you do take on a very special power to bring about for you the states of freedom and all-knowing. Yeah, freedom and all-knowing. All-knowing means omniscience, right? Freedom is the out of the mental afflictions. So after you have the renunciation and bodhicitta, when you have the correct worldview, you will have a very special power to reach enlightenment. So these three principal paths are very powerful, 3 PP. And this is interesting. King of Concentration Sutra said that the worldly meditate on concentration, but it doesn't destroy the concept of self. This fits their unhealthy thoughts, stirs them up, and ends like the meditation of Udraka. Okay, this is an interesting story. It's at the footnote, right? This Udraka is a very good meditator. He can meditate without movement for, I don't know, for a lot of time. So he deep, very deep, in meditation, very deep. He is a master meditator. And then there was once after he did a long meditation, when he finished his meditation, when he opened up his eyes, when he saw that his, in the olden days, those meditators, they tie their hair in a very nice and beautiful bun. He saw that beautiful hair bun was actually bitten by the mouse. A good meditator can meditate without even knowing, without even realizing what is happening around them, So when the mice were chewing on his beautiful bun, he didn't know it. But the moment he wake up and look at it, he got so angry at the mice. You see? So yeah, you can become a very good meditator, concentrate, very deep concentration, not even being disturbed by anything around you. But the moment you end your meditation, you can still get angry. A measure of good meditator, according to Geshe Michael, is that when you are in the deep meditation, when people bring donut or chakwe, yu tiao, in front of your nose, you should be able to smell it. All right. Okay, let's continue. To win freedom, you must eliminate from its root this grasping to a self. Yeah, we talk about self. Anatta, 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 right? To eliminate it, you must meditate on how nothing has a self. You must find a path or mental viewpoint which holds things in a way that is completely incompatible with the way you now grasp for self. You can make any great efforts you want in practices like charity and morality. This is referring to the 6 perfections of Bodhisattva. But without this meditation on no self, you will never be able to attain freedom. So the 400 verses says there is no second door to peace. Yeah, this wisdom which perceives that no self exists is then without which nothing for freeing yourself from the circle of life. Meaning that this is very important. So how did we talk about the no self just now, right? We have the PowerPoint, remember? Let's go back to the PowerPoint to remind ourselves. Here. Wow. This is the last slide that I ended the sharing just now. Okay, let's go through again, right? No self, according to the functionalist, is that I do not exist without a cause, right? So there is no self that exists without a cause. The independent says there is no self that exists independently of its parts. And the consequence says there is no self which exists without the naming and labeling of consciousness, meaning that without the projection of seeds. Yeah, so we need to understand this. Only, you can see my slide, correct? Only after you understand this, then, yeah, then you can go through the only door to peace. So this is the only door to peace. This is the only door to liberation. Wisdom, though, is not enough by itself either. Right? So compassion and wisdom are two things that must go together. Okay, compassion is basically the love and compassion, the bodhicitta, metta, karuna, and the wisdom. Yeah. So compassion, love, and compassion are the method. Wisdom is the wisdom. Never one without the other. Okay. Yeah. So Vimalakirti Sutra mentioned, wisdom not steeped in method is bondage. Wisdom steeped in method is freedom. Method not steeped in wisdom is bondage. Method steeped in wisdom is freedom. So both must go together. If you are missing either one, you are in the bondage. All right. The result we want to achieve is the two bodies of enlightened beings, the Dharma body and the form body, right? To get them, we must gather together a perfect union of two great masses of goodness. And to do this, we must rely on method and wisdom, one always with the other. So the realized being, Nagarjuna, Arya Nagarjuna mentioned, listen carefully. By this virtue, may all beings gather the masses of merit and wisdom. May they achieve the ultimate two that the merit and wisdom produce. Let me read the Tibetan and see if you recognize them. Kewa di, kewa kun. Sunam yeshe, chok zok sing. Sunam yeshe, le jung wei. Dampa nini, popar chok che tang, che tang. What is that? What is that? It's not mandala. It's called. Come on, dedication. Ngowa, dedication. All right. Remember, at the end of every class, of course, we start with mandala. Pearly is correct, and then we do dedication. All right. So remember the two wings. The two wings, when we do them properly, we get the two bodies of the enlightened being, Dharma body and form body. And in every good things that we do, we will end them with dedication so that we can become an enlightened being one day. All right. So let's read this before we end the session today. All right. So the illustrious Chandrakirti, all these names are the teachers in our lineage. Okay. Nagarjuna is very high at the top, and then Chandrakirti is his student. Some people say not his direct student, maybe few generations down, right? On vast, wide-spreading wings of both the conventional and the real, the king goose flies on at the center point in the formation of the other geese, all beings spurred by the wind of virtue. Remember, virtue is important. Reaching to the furthest shore of the ocean of Victor's qualities. Oh, sorry, let's continue because they are together, right? So conventional refers to method, which is the bodhicitta. Reality refers to wisdom. See here? One on vast wide spring wings of both the conventional and the realistic, right? Reality. A great bird with both wings complete can soar unimpeded in the sky. Just so a person who wants to travel to that further shore, where he possesses each and every good quality of the victorious Buddhas, must have method and wisdom, bodhicitta and correct view, yang dapat tawa, and he must have them both together. A person who has one without the other is like a bird with a broken wing. He cannot make the journey. Okay. Okay, I think we can stop here. Yeah, we can stop here. All right. 187. Okay. Any questions before we end? I think, wow, today is exciting, huh? We managed to end here.
Did you have a question?
Yes, hold on now. Let me say first. Tomorrow we are going to continue, and you will start to get to know the teachers in our lineage. Okay, it's exciting. Okay, who was that just now? Is that Anne?
Yes. I want
Yes.
to ask you a question about birth.
About what?
About birth. B-I-R-T-H. Birth.
Okay.
Okay. You mentioned it's like we are born over and over again. It could be past life. Does it mean that I use the word the fetus look for the mommy, or in scientific is a male and a female will make a baby? But in this teaching, that means the baby looks for the mommy?
Both ways. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's spend some more time to talk about this. Okay. We are going to talk about this in ACI 8 actually. But in short, I can tell you, at the end of our life, when we die, right, we go into what we call intermediate state, being of the intermediate state, or called pardo. Pardo is intermediate state, and we become pardoa, a being in the intermediate state, pardoa, right? So pardoa has very special ability. Pardoa can travel very far, can go through walls, can go through the Pardoa has lots of abilities, super ability, except the walls of the womb. Okay, and Pardoa only live for 7 days. Every 7 days they have to repeat, and maximum of 7 cycles. That's why we say 7 by 7, 49 days. Every 7 days, they will reborn as Padoa unless they get reincarnated earlier. Okay, unless they get reincarnated earlier. Otherwise, they will keep on repeating until 7 times. And as a Padoa, of course, Padoa has many forms, right? And the form depends on where you are heading. Okay. So if you can see Padoa, you know where this Padoa is going to. All right. So that is out of the scope of today's discussion. Okay. It's in ACI 8. Okay. So mark your calendar when we do ACI 8. There are lots of interesting stories. I'm doing my marketing now.
So I have another question.
Hold on. I haven't finished. So Padoa is very interested in what? Looking at male and female doing intercourse. So, somebody doing that. Let me have a look. That's it. Once you go in, you are trapped inside the womb already. That's a story. All right. Okay. So basically, both sides attract each other. They have their own seeds to attract each other. Okay. Okay. Your question. Your next question.
Like now we are learning about seeds. We are learning about karma. Now, what happens when, let's say, a mommy gives birth to a baby and the baby was delivered with lots of health problems? Is it because this health problem comes from the past life of the baby?
So let me bring you back to what we talk about, the flower number 4, fourth flower. Fourth flower. Okay, fourth flower is what? For the benefit of those who have not learned about this, we talk about the four ways seeds ripen. Okay, and the fourth way is what we call the future, or we call it the major transition. And the last major transition that we will go through is the death. So at the moment of death, there are millions, billions, trillions of seeds not ripened yet. What happened to those seeds that have not ripened yet? They will all ripen together at the same time. Okay, the moment we die, all those trillions of unripened seeds will open at the same time. That moment is called major transition, the biggest major transition. And that major transition will create so when we die, it's like we are opening a door. And when we open the door, the view behind the door is created by all the trillion seeds, unopened seeds. And that world will be the world that we walk in. And that world is determined by all the unripened seeds that we have up to that moment. And of course, that world, as a being in that world, it is determined by all the seeds that we carry with us at that last moment. Of course, we talk about the four priorities. Okay, those four priorities will also determine what kind of we can still help a bit. That's why in our tradition, there is a term called poa. You know, poa, it's out of the scope here. Poa will be able to help alter a little bit of the world that we are going to walk into. A little bit only, okay? So don't rely too much on that. A lot of people say, hey, can you when somebody dies in the family, can you do poa for so-and-so? Yes, but a little bit only. Chinese say, can you do a gongde, A little bit only, not much, my friends. It's best to practice now. Don't rely on this. People Hokkien say, 做功德. Don't rely on that. Okay? Don't rely on that. Do it now while we are still alive. Do it now while we still can practice. Accumulate all the seeds now. Don't wait until we are about to die, or don't wait until we die with all the power, all the gongtik, all the whatever. No, don't. Okay? So that door, the world that the door opens to, will determine the kind of world, will determine the kind of body we are born into. Yeah, and will determine whether we are healthy or we are sickly or what. So it's very important. Yeah, thank you, Pearlie, for the text. But let me tell you, don't rely too much on that, okay? Yeah, a lot of people are so interested in this practice. They want to learn, they want to do. I tell you, spend your time well to learn the seeds. Spend your time well to plant the seeds. That is more useful, okay? And of course, I would like to ask, hey, come to level 6. I'm not selling. I'm just telling you, this is for your sake. Okay, learn the system well, practice it well, and your future will be beautiful, all right? Okay, so ACI is just theory. To practice, we need to learn and do ourselves. Transfer of merit, this is what we say, the gongtik, transfer of merit. It doesn't help much. You know how much it helps you? Only 10%. Transfer of merit only help you 10%. How about the other 90%? 90% will go to the person who paid the money for that ceremony and the monk who does the prayer. Okay, the death only get 10%. Transfer of merit, yeah, it's possible, 10%. You want it? Yeah, but is that enough? Definitely not. Do it while you're still alive. Okay. All right, I think that's very late already. I'm sorry, translators. Thank you very much for translating. I think at this hour for Chinese, okay, it was Jensen, and then now it's Gibson, if I'm not wrong. Is that right? I think so. And then for Indonesia, it's still Amelia. And then Ivo for Vietnamese. Yeah. And then thank you very much for all the IT recording. Oh, Rini. Okay, Rini. All right. So thank you very much. And let's do our prayer. I have done the prayer, but let's read it officially. Inghui, you want to help to close with the prayer?
Can. Do you want to
Okay,
share
let
the screen
me,
for
have
them?
I shared? I have not. Okay, let me share now.
Okay. Sashi Puki
Juki,
Jushi Meto Tra Vira Lingshi Ninde Genpari Sange Shindu Nite Unwagi Dropun Namda Shingla Jupasho Idam Guru Ratna Mantala Kamniyanayami Gewadi Kiwo Kun Suna Yeshe Tokso Shi Suna Yeshe Lejongwe Dampa Kuni Nopasho.
Okay, thank you very much for coming
Photo.
tonight. Oh yeah, photo. I always forget. Okay, come. Please turn on your camera and let's have a good picture. I need to stop the transcript. Okay. All right. I see Jennifer. Who else? Who else? Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All turned on already. Ryan, have you turned on? Oh, I see Sumarwan. Oh, good. Thank you, Gibson. Thank you, Jensen. I think the Chinese people really owe a lot to them. Pearlie,
Okay.
you want to turn on your camera? Kevin? Sue? Sister Susie? Okay, come, let's take picture. Oh, Sister Susie is here. Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Yay.
I think got second page.
All right. Second page.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. And see you tomorrow for the last class. And I'm glad that we managed to cover
Thank you,
part of
teacher.
class.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher. Good night.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, translators. Thank you,
Good night.
IT. Thank you, all of you. Bye-bye. Good night.